All right, Mr. Dave here. I have kind of rigged up a whiteboard here in the office with lights here, there, and everywhere. It's not perfect, but it kind of has the board pretty unreflective. So I want to go ahead and talk about dirt rocks. Again, that's the dirt rocks that are going to be the structure on top of which we will be adding concrete. So we want to go ahead and just sort of doodle it out a little bit, give you an idea of what that means with my little dry erase pen. So we're going to go ahead and look at just getting the dirt ready, concrete coverage, mixing the concrete and applying it. Those are the sessions you will be watching once you're done with this little quick lecture. But the idea is to be able to make a mound of something that can be covered with concrete. You want to be able to have material that's packable, that can hold its shape pretty good. So you want to have sort of a sandy loam, if you can read that. That's pretty far. Oh, that's horrible writing. Anyway, trying to write backwards. Sandy loam, fill sand. And these are things you can buy at a supply store. You can even get sand from Home Depot, bagged sand. And the reason I'm mentioning these things is these things you may need to add to your dirt. Depending on what part of the country you live in, some of the soils are loose and fluffy and very organic. They have a lot of peat moss, decaying organic matter. Those kind of things, you know how it is when you pile up, they can kind of compress and mush down. You can use some of that for filler. You can use rubble also for filler. If you have any concrete that you've demoed and you can pile that up in ways to make interesting shapes, put more material on top of that, and then follow that up with a compactable sand or dirt sand mix. So these things over here you can get, if you need to add them to your sand mix and dirt mix to be able to have a compacted material. In the videos you're going to watch, I have got decomposed granite here in Southern California, here at my house up in East San Diego County. And when it gets wet and you compress and compact it, it's very, very hard. It's got a lot of fines in it, is what they would say. Sandy loam has a lot of the fines in it. And so those kind of things allow for sand to be the dirt really to be packed very easily and very well, and it holds its shape quite nicely when we're making our dirt rock shapes that we're going to cover with concrete. All right, the idea is to go ahead and be able to pile up the dirt in a way that holds its shape and doesn't get misshapen in the process of adding concrete to it. All right, so now that I've made this really terrible thing you can barely read, we will get rid of it. Really simple stuff we're talking about here, but the idea is if you're on the flat ground, right, is to be able to pile up something and have it all be dirt. So you pile, this is all dirt. If you have a piece of cinder block in there or something, or rubbish, you can use that as filler too. But the idea is to go ahead and make a shape. In the video I'm going to show you how we did that. Make a shape that sort of has an interesting rocky composition. On a sort of a three-dimensional kind of a look, it might look something more along these lines, right? If you can kind of tell from my quick doodle that this is sort of a rock on the ground. It sort of gives you, I put a little bush here to give you an idea, but having and you can, I'm sort of stippling it to give it a little bit of a rocky texture. Real simple, but that's more of a 3D kind of example of it. Again, the idea is to have these side walls right here not too steep. You can go vertical, you can do vertical stuff, but it's a little more difficult. All right, so we make ourselves our dirt mound, and upon that we are going to mix up and add our concrete. If we can get the focus back here. On very soft slopes, you don't need much. You know, we're looking to follow the shape of our dirt rock. It's good to make it a little thicker at the bottom as you move on up. This whole process is going over your dirt rock shape, and we're going to show that again. If you have cinder blocks that you want to put in here to take up space, you can do that. Let's see if I can show that real quick. Bricks you could use too. You know, if you have little blocks or if you have complete blocks, you could use those as filler as well. The idea though is to get the dirt in a shape that's going to hold and really be a nice shape. Okay? So it can be that steep. Concrete, you'd want to have it thicker at the bottom and then tapering as it comes to the top. You want to make sure as you're doing it, you don't get too thin over on the corners of it, because that'll be a weak point. So you want to make sure as you're moving up, and I show this in the video, and you keep track of your details too, that you keep that thickness on the corners. Those are sort of a stress point. Fatten it up as you go down to the bottom. Again, this is all dirt, and you want to be able to pack that up pretty vertical. So go ahead and pack the dirt. See if I can make it here. Pack dirt into a rock shape. My handwriting is so terrible. But again, the dirt goes in there, and then you're going to put concrete on the outside of it, as the session will show you, right? Once you get that dirt rock covered with concrete, you now have the scratch or structural coat on there. After that, you come back with a texture coat. The texture coat is much thinner, but you can also increase the texture coat, the mortar mix, in areas if you want to make the shape different. So this texture, and this comes on after the structural coat, right? And this structural. Oh, my spelling and my penmanship, you can barely see what I'm doing here. But so dirt rocks, you shape them into you shape the dirt into a rock shape, and that's what we see here. You can have rubble, you can have cinder blocks inside that, and then you just want to have enough dirt to pack up the sides right around the edges to follow the shape of a rock. And again, look at nature and stuff. In the course, we have the 5 keys to effective fake rock construction. Watch that, download that PDF, print it out, and study that, because that is the fundamentals for how to do good fake rock. You gotta pay attention to what's in nature, and that kind of gives 5 key elements that I sort of broke it down into. So study that as well before you make your dirt rock, because your dirt rock sort of is setting the stage for the end result. Excuse me, the end shape. Again, but you can modify areas and kick them up with extra concrete and even the mortar coat. And you can do steeper rocks as well. If you start getting to where you're totally vertical, then you either have to really push out the bottom of it to be able to get the concrete to stay, because it will slump. Having your concrete mix design is how you mix it is also critical to having things work. If it's too wet, it won't pack. So you'll have to experiment with that to end up with the right kind of material that will work for you. And the material will kind of teach you how to do that. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can stack cinder block or bricks in a perimeter shape that's, again, not symmetrical. You want to aim for, again, the 5 keys to effective fake rock construction. You want to go ahead and have those shapes in rocky, natural compositions, if you will. So you can position bricks, cinder block. I don't want to take the time to draw out all the holes that you'd have in cinder block, but you get the idea. And I'm just trying to do this backwards with my arm. It's harder to draw. But the idea is this could be like a 7-foot wide big boulder. You could then put another brick on top of this, another stone on top, and continue to bring in your shape. The idea would be that at the end of this construction right here, you'd have a nice big stone that could actually occupy quite a bit of space and have a very cool shape to it. All right, so cinder blocks in a perimeter. You can fill that up with more rubble if you have rubble or broken up concrete deck work or what have you. Anything that can fill that up that you don't need anymore, instead of hauling it to the dump and it's not going to smell or decay or cause an issue, you can put inside sort of some kind of a brick perimeter. And I talk a little bit about this in the sessions, dirt rock building sessions. You could actually make a very considerable size stone, again, keeping the cost down. If the dirt's packable, then you could just go ahead and do your shapes and just keep the angle of repose in a little bit, so they're going to be easy to pack up and not have to worry about having things slump and fall down. Mixing the concrete in a way that is nice and firm but workable is the key. In the dirt rock sessions, I show you how we did that and demonstrate that. So very basic whiteboard doodle here a little bit. Kind of shows you the idea. We're going to be making mounds of dirt, compressing, compacting them, troweling them down, sculpting them, shaping them, just very rudimentary, basic, super fast. And then over that, we're going to have our concrete application. Number one, concrete and structural coat or scratch, followed by a texture coat. Texture coat allows, again, for more tweaking and adding more details and stuff, as the sessions will teach you and stuff. So again, we're talking about making dirt rocks super cheap, fast, best and easiest way to make things quick at a low cost with little effort. And again, you don't have to make a 7-foot wide boulder. You can make a little one that's just, 2 feet or something. So, and then looking at nature and how to compose multiple stones together, how to put in some cracks that are interesting, right? Just look at nature. Look at nature. Again, the 5 keys to effective fake rock construction. But nature, look at nature. Look at the big cracks, small cracks, the textures and the colors and the composition of how you group together your stones. So again, you can do cinder blocks in a way that gives you some perimeter support. Fill that up with more cinder blocks or bricks, debris, or dirt if you got lots of dirt. In fact, you can get a dump truck to come and drop off some of this compactable sand that we talked about over here. Sandy loam, unwashed fill sand. That's all coming from my sand sculpture background, because I packed sand up into immense, huge projects, hundreds of tons, and was able to carve it down and have very extreme steep verticalities for many, many feet. So if you don't have good dirt near you, you can get just a truckload. Maybe someone will dump some of the stuff in your yard, move those piles around. Again, it's very physical, but there's no cost. It's just a little sweat effort here, if you will, and time. Once you get those mound shapes, again, they can be nice and smooth, or they can be very steep and, with rocky edges, right? So you can make them how you want them, but look at nature. Look at what God makes. God makes the best rocks, right? So just want to give you a little breakdown, simple little way to do this with the whiteboard to show you what we're doing. I'm sorry that I'm kind of backwards and it's not all pretty, but you get the idea. So now once you've, and again, study nature, look at the real thing. Does it work better to have a dent in it? Does that look more real? See, I just made a little notch in there. So study the real thing. And you can get pretty amazing shapes again with just compacted dirt and or sand or sandy loam mixed together. And again, if you've got concrete rubble, all you got to do is have enough sandy dirt, packable dirt, to go up around the edges of your rubble concrete, and then just fill it up with concrete. The bigger the rock, the thicker you got to make it, right? And then you want to like keep it wet as it's curing, because concrete likes to be wet when it's cured slowly. If it's super hot and humidity is low and you just lay it on there and to walk away, it'll probably be all right. If it's a smaller stone, bigger stones, you may have some shrinking and cracking. The beauty of it is when you come back with a texture coat, you can fill in those kind of issues and do modifications and stuff. And if you need to, you can add a piece of rebar here and there on the bigger, longer rocks. It's good to get it off the dirt if you can, with a little piece of crumbly cinder block scraps, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, or an inch. That's great. It just means you push it out. You got to let a little more mud right there. Good to throw in some piece of rebar, but you don't have to at all really on the smaller rocks. So there you go. All right, whiteboard lecture number 1, talking about dirt rocks and basically the concepts we're going to go into now. So go ahead and dive into dirt rock number 1, and there's sessions 1 and 2, preparing the dirt before concrete coverage. That is next. And then just carry on through as you go. And again, if you want to make your dirt rocks as we're doing the course, please do that. That's great. Just keep things in a size and shape as you're beginning that are manageable, so it's not like a crazy big thing right off the bat. Get a little practice by doing a couple rocks and boulders first before you make large or landscape faux rock boulders and stuff for your landscaping and stuff. So, all right, so there you go. Lecture number 1, whiteboard. Got it in the bag, and it's pretty bad penmanship, but there you go. All right. Keep on trucking and keep on rocking and making rocks. And then, again, ask me questions, send me stuff if you got any questions. But I think the course is pretty complete and will really help you figure it out. So, all right. Thanks for checking this out. And on you go to getting into the sessions.